Hello, my name is Joe Vasta, and today we are going to ask this question: does the Bible say that pi equals 3? The information is found in that paper down there by those authors, so you can look it up. So let's move on to the issue here. Now, if you take the circumference of any circle and divide it by its diameter, you end up getting pi. Circumference is going all the way around it, and the diameter is the measurement across. Okay, so 3.14159, etc. Now let's take a look at a Bible verse. This is found in 1 Kings, which is in the Old Testament, chapter 7, verse 23. And he made a molten sea 10 cubits from the one brim to the other. It was round all about, and his height was 5 cubits, and a line of 30 cubits did compass it round about. So this describes the dimensions of a huge cast bronze basin to be located in the temple. So let's take a look at what I have in bold. I have 10, and that's actually describing the diameter. And 30 did compass it round about. That describes the circumference. So 1 Kings chapter 7 verse 23, if you put the circumference over the diameter, you end up getting 30 over 10, which equals 3. People knew that pi was not exactly 3 when 1 Kings was written down in the 6th century BC. Is this an error in the Bible? Sometimes people will go right to this verse and say, see, the Bible is just full of errors. Let's investigate this. Before we investigate this, we'll look at a quote from a book called The History of Pi, written in 1971. The author's name, Beckman, and it says, this is a quote from the book, "The Book of Kings was edited by ancient Jews as religious work about 550 BC, but its sources date back several centuries. At that time, pi was already known to a considerably better accuracy, but evidently not to the editors of the Bible. The people of the world say pi is 3 1/7, but the scriptures say pi is 3. So he's pretty much mocking the Bible. Well, let's see if this is legitimate. Should he be doing this? Let's take a look at this verse a little bit closer. We go back to the original Hebrew, the Old Testament, mostly written in Hebrew. They had a variation of the word circumference or line, which is quave. Now, the Old Testament was carefully copied again and again over the centuries by scribes. When they would find something that they thought was copied incorrectly, they would note it in the margin rather than altering the text. So this variation of the word circumference or line bugged them, and they thought it should be something else. But they couldn't just change it. So in the margin, they had the common spelling for circumference, which is just quav. Okay, the Hebrew letters have numeric values. In fact, they had numeric values in the BCs, and here is a table. So we have the Aleph, which looks like that. which had a numeric value of 1, etc. So there are some numbers there, and that's how they could represent numbers. And so I've made 3 of those in bold, because you can see the hey, which is right there in Quave, which is a 5, and the Vav, which is this guy right here, which is a 6. You can see that in Quave and Quav, and then the Quaff, which you see in both of them as well, and that's worth 100. So what are we going to do with this? We'll go to the next page here. So there we have it. We have the Quaff is 5, the Vav is 6, and the Hey is 100. Let's take a look at the word Quave. What we're going to do is we're going to add those letters together. This gives us a value of 111. You can see that. We're going to now take a look at the word that they thought was the correct word. It wasn't the alteration. And there's Quav. That has a value of, when you add the letters, 106. This gives us something called an adjustment ratio. So now what we're going to do is go back to the text, not the original Hebrew, but I mean, you can go back to the original Hebrew if you want. And it says circumference or line of 30 cubits. So with circumference, that was the word that we had a problem with, the Quave versus Quav. We're going to put our adjustment ratio of, in math, is multiply, and then we have 30. So when we do that, we end up getting 31.415, etc. So now let's take a look at the First Kings approximation for pi, going circumference over the diameter. You do that, and that gives us 3.14150943. So then it kind of goes off. This gives us an absolute error less than 0.00009. And so I find this very intriguing. I mean, is this just a coincidence? Or is there something going on here? Is there like a fingerprint, a divine fingerprint in the text? So why don't we just summarize this? 1 Kings 7:23 gives us, if you look at that adjustment ratio, an approximation for pi. So there's the 6th century BC. Beckmann's people of the world would yield a pi value of 3.14, and then it goes off. So obviously the biblical one is better than this one. This is the one where it's 22/7, which is given by some teachers today. So the people of the world were a little bit more inaccurate than what the Bible was reading when you consider the adjustment ratio. This biblical accuracy of pi was not obtained until the 5th century AD in China. This was more accurate. When I say this, it's the biblical pi there that we have on the top. More accurate than Fibonacci's approximation of pi, and that happened around the 13th century AD. Europe didn't achieve this accuracy until after the 14th century AD. This biblical approximation of pi is optimal given the fact that the writer was creating an adjustment ratio from the word line and can only use integer values in that ratio. Mathematically, he couldn't do a better job given these constraints. So there was a paper I mentioned at the beginning of this video. It offers alternative solutions to why people might think there's an error in this verse, though this one was the most intriguing for me. Do you want to see more math in the Bible? Well, then check out my math and the Bible video that's on YouTube. It will have what we just did, but it contains a lot more math in the Bible. It gets into probabilities and higher dimensions, predictions about the future, etc. So if you're interested, just Google it, maybe Math in the Bible Vasta, and it should come up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video.